With the NeoGeo home console out of my reach, when they came out with a handheld, I decided to make it a high priority. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I do a NeoGeo Pocket Showcase.
Second Opinion Games.
First up, we have Baseball Stars. Now, I love the arcade version. There was an over-the-top announcer, and all of the characters had a lot of, well, character to them. Now, on the NeoGeo Color Pocket, everything seems to be stripped down and cut out. What was cut out? Well, that brilliant announcer was completely cut out, and that really hurts the game. And the overall character of the characters, I gotta find a better word for that, seems to be slightly stripped out as well. You can still see some animations as they're tiring out, and the pitchers need to be changed, but overall this is a competent baseball game on the go, only now with color, which is definitely an improvement over baseball on the original Game Boy. So as far as baseball games on the go, this is one you had to get, at least at the time. Then we have Bust a Move. Now, I did play this in the arcades at the time. Most of the time, I only played it when the games in Boardwalk Boulevard were just too overplayed, or maybe even someone was playing my favorite game and I had to pick this one by default. But it is a relatively simple puzzle game where you launch balls and usually have to bang them off the walls to get them in exactly the right spot. If you get 3 balls of one color, they blow up, and you could even blow up different areas to launch more than just the balls you're going for. There's also some power-ups here which even have more balls disappear, and this is a fairly addictive game, especially when you're playing it on the go, which is why this is absolutely necessary for you to own if you're playing on the NeoGeo Pocket Color. While we're talking about ways to waste time, how about Pac-Man? Now, I got this one for free when I bought my NeoGeo Pocket Color because they just threw the game in here because it's just the arcade version of Pac-Man. And by the time this game came out, it was like the 4 millionth time it was ported to the home, so people were kind of bored of it. Now, you can play the traditional way to play Pac-Man, seeing the whole screen at once and avoiding the goats, or a more zoomed-in version, which just shows off the power, well, somewhat of the power, of the NeoGeo Pocket Color. The sounds are all great here, and Pac-Man plays totally fine. If you loved Pac-Man, well then this is your game, and if you just sort of tolerated it, well, it was a good way to waste some time. A much more interesting maze game would have been Roller Crush. Now, in this game, you still have to run around the maze, but instead of eating dots, you're just sort of running over the territory. It also seems to be in 3D because there's different bridges that you could cross or go underneath. You still have enemies chasing you that are trying to kill you, only this time they move a little bit faster than you do, so sometimes in the upper levels, trying to outrun them is just not gonna happen. Now, there are different warps on the different sides of the screen that you could go through, and even these paint rollers that will speed you up to have you get away just a little bit quicker. But what it also has is little animals that you can collect in every single level, and you're going to want to do these because you can look back and see which ones you have captured, sort of like a Pokemon style idea. They don't really add that much to the game, but they do make it a lot more interesting. And this is definitely a maze game that has been improved since the original old Pac-Man. Then we have Magical Drop. It's a puzzle game where tiles fall from the ceiling and you have to suck them up and then shoot them back to destroy the different colors. And all the colors are really easy and noticeable to see, and there's different power-ups that you could suck up as well, like the sword, which might destroy all of the different reds on the screen at once. One of the things I like about it is the fact that you could choose which characters you want to play as, and each of the characters are kind of cool. I like playing as this vampire chick most of the time, or this little kid whose nose seems to always run, and even his little cat's nose is always running with boogers. You can even see from the title screen of the game where the cat's boogers are just flying around as the cat dances about, and it just adds a lot of personality to the game. But that wouldn't mean anything if the game itself wasn't a lot of fun. And trust me, it is. And it's also really addictive. And also, chicks dig this game too, because they just love those tile-based clearing line games. Something about them is just so addictive, it could draw in pretty much anybody. Then we have Neo 21. Well, it's just a game of simple blackjack. Only when the dealer gets blackjack, you instantly lose. And trust me, that gets really annoying really fast. Don't worry about betting too much money here. You're not actually playing for any type of storyline. And if you do happen to lose all your credits, you could just take out a loan and get all of your money back. Or just turn off the system and turn it back on and just keep on playing. So it's just a really simple game of blackjack. Also, the AI isn't too bright here as well. Sometimes they'll have you beat, and then they'll still hit for another card to lose and have you win. But most of the time, the game's just a cheater. It seems to always get exactly the card that it wants at all times. But this can teach you how to count cards if that's your thing, and playing blackjack on the go is always a good time. There are other gambling games like this for the NeoGeo Pocket Color, but I always tend to like blackjack. Now, Neo Turf Masters got pretty much the same treatment that Baseball Stars did. It had all of the great graphics from the arcade stripped out, as well as the announcer, but did leave the courses pretty much intact with all of the gameplay intact. This is still at its heart a terrific golf game, and the colors really do pop out here over some of the other titles on the console. If you really like golf, then this is a must-have to play portably, even by today's standards. Now it's time for the heavy hitters, and how about Metal Slug? Now, in this point in time in my life, I never saw Metal Slug on a home device that I could play other than the NeoGeo itself, which was just too expensive and out of my reach. Also, here is where I started to notice the limitations of the console themselves. You see, the sprites are only made up of a couple of colors, and this is where it becomes very apparent that that's what's going on in this system. Overall, this still plays like Metal Slug, including getting into tons of different weapons and tanks and even planes and shooting down stuff. But it does come to a point where even on the easiest mode, there's this one scene where I just cannot get past. I just die right away over and over, and I would take out my cartridge in rage. Also, the voices were stripped out of Metal Slug, and that's what really sort of drew me into the game, was hearing about heavy machine guns and stuff like that, and it just didn't have it. So it really let me down. But what didn't let me down was Metal Slug 2. Or I should say, Metal Slug the Second Mission. Now, this isn't just a cut and paste job. They completely remade the game. All the sprites look a lot better with a bit more color added to them. The gameplay controls were refined. The levels were made less linear, but some still are just run to the right and blow everything up. And the voices were added in, making this feel like a terrific Metal Slug experience. And the game itself is super long, and luckily, because it's so freaking long, they added a save feature, because this isn't a game you're just going to want to sit down and play all the way through at once, because there is tons of content here. Metal Slug the Second Mission is so much more superior over the first game that I would say don't even bother getting that one at all. That's just a testament to how good this version is. But if you were playing the NeoGeo because of the fighting games, there are plenty of those too. I would just want to draw a little bit of special attention to Gal Fighters here, because this one seems much more realistic. Not in the move set of the gals themselves, but the fact that they segregated the girls to just fighting amongst themselves. Because let's face it, Mortal Kombat with Sonya going against some super ninjas that can freeze people and break them into shreds just feels a little bit wrong. Like, Sonya's a little bit out of her league here. But let's get back to Gal Fighters. This is a fighting game with just 2 buttons, and believe it or not, it plays really good. I have no problem pulling off my special moves and super special moves. There's a bar at the bottom of the screen that you could unleash a devastating attack, and if you manage to do that devastating attack in order to kill your opponent, depending on which opponent you have different pictures flash in the background, and it's super satisfying. This is a terrific fighting game, and it's great to have on the go. But there's one little tiny problem I have with the NeoGeo Pocket Color's hardware, and that's the fact that the D-pad is all micro switches, which is kind of cool for that arcade feel, but for games like this where you're continuously rotating the D-pad around, it gets really loud. So if you're playing in the car with a passenger that gets annoyed really easily, well then they're gonna get pissed at you. But one of the games I didn't expect to see on my Pocket Color at all was a Sonic game. Now, the Dreamcast came out about the same time as this, and they had special link cables to link them both together, and it could unlock some extra content, and I'm pretty sure Sonic was one of those games, but I never really ever got that link cable, and I'm probably going to try and dive into it in the future. Now, playing a Sonic game on the go was a great thing to have, especially what seems to be a version of Sonic 2, and it is a terrific game through and through, right down to the spin dash. However, Tails isn't there to help you out so much, and this game got really high praise when it came out. IGN gave it a perfect 10 out of 10, which means this game scored higher than Red Dead Redemption or Ocarina of Time, putting it up there with one of the best games of all times. It's not really that good, but it is a fairly good Sonic game that you could play portably back in 1999. But the last game I want to talk about is Dark Arms Beast Busters. This is an RPG with some puzzle elements, and it's a bit of a light RPG. There's not a whole lot of reading. Mostly it's about killing things and leveling up. What do you level up? Well, some of the super weapons that you craft yourself. But you could always shoot things with your shooty gun, which then absorbs the souls, which then you use to feed to your other weapons. And this whole balance of leveling it up by killing things with your ultimate weapons or absorbing the souls to feed to other weapons that you could then level them up, this whole trade-off is just amazing and definitely has you grinding for fun. Normally grinding's the worst part of an RPG, but this is really satisfying. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and yeah, I have a huge collection of NeoGeo Pocket Color games. After all, the handheld systems were my favorite to play way back in the day. I did have to play an emulator in order to capture the gameplay, but the experiences I had were all authentic and my own. So I want to know what your favorite game for the NeoGeo Pocket Color was. Is there any I missed out on? Well, probably a lot of those fighting games, but I really do like that Gal Fighter game, and Dark Ages Beast Busters is such a cool RPG, especially for a guy that loves Halloween themed games and shooting down monsters. It's just excellent on all fronts. So tell me what your favorite game for the NeoGeo Pocket Color was, and any ideas you have games you want me to cover in the future. So until later, I will see you again, guys.